This video shows you how to import existing image files from a hard drive or a memory card into Lightroom. So when you open Lightroom for the first time, you won't see any images. You have to import the images into Lightroom before you can organize them or develop them or share them. When you open a catalog for the first time, you'll also have to import images into that catalog. So how do you import images into Lightroom? Well, I'm going to show you two ways. One is importing directly from a card reader, and then also how to import your images from the hard drive. So I'm going to show you something here under Lightroom Preferences. Now, if you're on a PC, that would be Edit and Preferences. Under the General tab, Import Options. Show Import dialog when a memory card is detected. If that is selected, when you place a memory card into the reader and you have Lightroom launched, it will automatically bring open the import dialog window. If you deselect that, you'll still be able to import those images. It just won't be as automatic. Let me close these preferences. So to import images into Lightroom, we're over here in the left side panels. We can simply select Import, or we can go under File, Import Photos and Video. I use this method most often. Okay, so you can see my device over here on the left is the card reader, and the images will show up shortly in the preview area, and they show up as thumbnails. Notice over here under Source and Devices, I have an option to eject after import, which I have selected. That just means your card will be ejected and ready to be put into your camera to be reused or reformatted. Now over here on the right, in the preview area, we have thumbnails, and we can control the size of the thumbnails down here at the bottom by moving this slider to the right, that enlarges them, or moving the slider to the left, which makes them smaller. We can also zoom in on an image by selecting it and then selecting the loop icon down here, or just more easily the E key. Now to go back to the grid view, we can select the grid icon or just hit the G key. You'll notice that all these images here have a check mark, and up here it says all photos check. That's because all the photos will be imported. However, you can, if you want, deselect certain images just by clicking on that check, or you can select uncheck all and then select the images that you want to import. So I almost always bring in all the images from a card, so I'll just leave them all checked for now. Okay, so now let's look up here at the top of the import dialog window. We have a couple choices. We can copy these images as a DNG, or we can simply copy them. Move or add are not options when you're importing from a card reader. So I'm just going to keep this at copy for now. Now I need to come over here to the right and go through various options I have here. So under File Handling, Render Previews, you have various choices. If you want the images to load very quickly into Lightroom, I suggest you just leave this as minimal. If you want to have Lightroom render larger size previews, you can choose 1:1 or Standard. Embedded and Sidecar, that really depends on how the files are coming from your camera. It can actually be pretty quick as well, but minimal will be your fastest option here. Now just keep in mind that Lightroom always builds previews on the fly within the Lightroom environment anyway, so it really doesn't matter if you just have a minimal preview at first. As you work on the image, Lightroom will rebuild the preview anyway. Okay, if we want, we can build smart previews. This is new to Lightroom 5. I'll leave that deselected for now. I will keep don't import suspected duplicates checked, because obviously I don't want to bring duplicates in. That's not an issue for this particular card. For another card, it may be an issue. If I want to make a backup copy, I can select this option, and then I can choose a location for that backup. I'm going to suggest that you don't do this on your initial import. It takes a lot more time to build a second copy, and you can always make another copy of your original files directly from your desktop or Explorer window anyway. So under File Renaming, if you want to rename the files, you go ahead and check that. And you can choose from various options here for renaming, or you can just keep the original file name. Down here, Apply During Import, you can apply various preset develop settings if you want, or none. And under Metadata, you can create your own personalized metadata template that will give very important copyright information to your image EXIF data automatically. If you want, you can add keywords here. You can do all this later in the library module if you want. So this is not so critical on the import. So as far as destination goes, this is where you tell Lightroom where to place the files that you're bringing in from the card reader. So once you've made your selection or kept your selections in the preview window, you're ready to import. So I'm going to go ahead and select Import now. So you can see we're now in the library module. That's where the images are imported into. And if you look up here to the upper left, you can see a status bar. If I want to stop this process at any time, I just click on this X here, and that will stop the import process. So you see it's taking a little bit of time, and the reason it's taking some time is because it's actually copying the images from the card reader and placing them on the hard drive. So there's a fair amount of work that's going on here. And it's taking a little bit longer than it will when you see how I import images straight from a hard drive into Lightroom. That's going to be much quicker. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this import process so I can move on to showing you how to import images from a hard drive. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this X. That will stop the import process. And now I can go back to the import dialog window and show you how to import images from a hard drive. So once again, from the library module, I'm going to select Import. We're back in the import dialog window. Now we're going to navigate to a folder on my hard drive. And I'm going to do that over here on the left side panel. And you can see this is basically mirroring all the files on my hard drive and also on my external drives. They're all showing up here. And I can navigate, and I'm going to do that by clicking on that folder and opening up all the different folders that I have containing my image files. And by clicking on one of those folders, you'll see over to the right, the images now appear in thumbnail form. I want to talk just a little bit about what I'm doing here and why I've organized it this way. Frankly, I do not generally import my images into Lightroom straight from my card reader. My workflow is to take the images from my card reader and place them on my hard drive in a single folder with the date associated with that transfer. So in this case here, it would be May 7th, 2013. The images from that particular transfer all went into that folder. Now, once they're in that folder, then I navigate to that folder in Lightroom, as we're doing now, and import them that way. And you'll see it's actually very quick to do it this way, and it's my preferred way of working. Let me just talk a little bit more about on the left-hand side here. This is a fairly important point. Up here near the top, if you select Include Subfolders on your import, let me give you an example. If I select now the entire year of 2013, where all these subfolders exist, it will import all the images in the subfolders as well. If this is deselected, as I'll do now, and I select that folder, well, there frankly aren't any images there. They're all in subfolders, so nothing will show up. I'll keep that deselected for now and go back down and find a folder. Let's just go ahead and click on a folder here. And once again, just like we did with the card reader, you can see the previews show up in the preview window as thumbnails. We can enlarge the images by double clicking on them or selecting the loop icon here or the E key. G will always bring you back to the grid view. Now up here at the top, you can see we also have a couple more options. Instead of just copy as DNG and copy, which were our options when we were bringing images in from a card reader, we now have move and add. And because I have already placed my images on my hard drive, I'm not going to copy them. I'm not going to move them. I'm just going to add them to the Lightroom database. Because I'm not actually moving any files around, I'm not copying any files, I'm just adding a relationship between Lightroom and those images that reside on the hard drive. This import process is going to be very, very quick and efficient. So I'm going to select Add here. Now over to the right under File Handling, once again, you have options on how the previews are rendered. Minimal, standard, or 1:1. Minimal is your fastest way. Sometimes embedded and sidecar are as fast as minimal, but minimal is for sure the fastest way of bringing in those images into Lightroom. Standard and 1:1 will take a little bit longer. Build smart previews is also an option here, and don't import suspected duplicates. Now, in this case, we can't make a second copy. There's no way of making a backup, and frankly, we don't need to do that here. So apply during import, develop settings. Once again, you can choose from various Lightroom presets or user presets. Metadata, you can apply your own user metadata template if you want here, and add keywords. Notice there's no destination because we already have the images placed on the hard drive. So that's not an option. We're not adding or moving them. So there's no choices more to be made. Okay, so when I'm ready here, all I have to do is hit the import button down here on the right. And I think you can see the difference. See how quick these are coming in? This is going to take a very short amount of time compared to the previous option. And what's really cool about Lightroom is that once you start that process, the minute they're in the library module, you can start working on those images. They're there. Even though the process, as you can see up here in the left, is not complete, you can actually start working on the images. So now that you've imported your images into Lightroom, you can look under the catalog and you'll see that these photographs now show up as all photographs. This is the beginning of our catalog. And also the previous import is listed here. You're ready to go. They're in Lightroom. Now we can have some fun.